So, welcome to the podcast, Jane, my old
Ah,
friend.
thank you, Miss Stephanie. So happy to be here.
I am so happy you're here. I'm happy you have a professional microphone. I'm so
You're
grateful.
welcome. It does help. I edit one myself. I know.
I went to a meeting this morning. I'm feeling very sober. I'm feeling very,
I noticed how sober you are. You're like super,
yes,
super sobs right
I'm
now.
so clear right
Yeah,
now.
it's just shining right at me. It's kind of powerful. I'm a little intimidated right now by how sober you
Don't
are.
be, don't be,
Okay, all
relax.
right. Okay, thanks.
Yes, you're in the company of greatness, but like, don't be in,
Don't
don't
freak
be.
out.
So I just want to say that I met you early on in my sober journey,
Yes.
and you were a little bit ahead of me. And you are mentioned in my book,
Oh,
in Drunkish. You know that.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I acted like I didn't, but I totally do.
So if anybody's read it or if anybody wants to go back and read it, you're a person who I talked about being a new mom and that I always thought of you as being very perfect. You were very, very serene and you had such a glowy quality. You were like a really nice, seemingly like having no problems. And then one day you walked in to where we were and you were just like, man, this mom shit is hard.
I just like fell apart on the floor.
And I was like, yes,
Okay, now we get to
I
it.
love her. I must make
Yeah.
her my friend.
Yeah, I was like, would someone take this baby because I'm freaking out? Yeah,
And that
that
started
was
our friendship.
yay. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think that sometimes my overly optimistic perky personality can just be a lot, but I'm glad that you saw the truth.
It
Yeah.
was a moment and it let me like see how vulnerable you were. And,
Yeah.
you know, to be serious for a minute, it was hard because I think a lot of people can attest to the fact that when you're new and you're trying to get sober, whatever you're doing, you know, you tend to feel very much alone. You tend to feel
Yeah,
like you're the only person who's like going through it.
totally.
And sometimes, especially with meetings, you can think, oh, everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's doing it better than me. Everybody's got it
Had
all
it all figured
together.
it out. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and that'll you can freak yourself right out of there with that. And so it's a little dangerous. And that's part of the beauty of it is like we're just speaking some gnarly truth. Like, please take the baby. Like take him.
So tell me like your whole story. I know a lot of your past is with with just deciding you don't want to drink anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to hear about why, but then
Yeah.
also trying to do it just like I'm just gonna be someone who doesn't drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take me back there.
So, I have I often will joke if I'm telling this story that my family tree is like littered with like booze. Like it's like I once made a little short film about my journey with alcohol, and it's funny because at the time I was still drinking, and I hung a bunch of cocktail glasses and wine glasses from a tree, and I filmed it very artistically using a Super 8 camera, and I was like, "This is my family tree," because we're a bunch of drunks, like straight up, and there's like lots of really, I mean, there's some terrible things, she says, laughing, that have happened in my family thanks to this disease. And so by the time I was like in my late teens, I knew that I should not drink. Just looking to the left, looking to the right, to the north, to the south, I was like, do not drink. This isn't for you. So of course, 5 minutes later, I was picking up in college and telling myself a different story and completely blacking out and proving to myself pretty quickly that genetically I was not capable of imbibing alcohol. But the mind is a powerful thing. Narratives appear and try to sweep you away, like, but you're okay. And the real problem with my drinking is that I would go weeks, months, a long time without picking up. So I could really talk myself into thinking I was fine. And
And they
then
call that, they have a name for that. It's right, a periodic.
a periodic,
Yeah.
sporadic, I often will say spastic, but yes, there's like a
Binge drinking.
binge
Yeah.
drinking. Yeah. Because it's just, whatever. I was busy. I was in film school. I was thinking other thoughts and I didn't prioritize drinking. But anytime I did drink, there was a danger quality. I used to kind of, not that this is a funny joke, but it's a little bit like Russian roulette. Like I don't know what's going to happen. I might be absolutely fine, have 2 drinks, set it down, good night, or I might be in a blackout in a driving a car, like hashtag not proud. So that's actually what helped me put it down the first time was I woke up not sure where my car was. And to be honest, that didn't happen too many times to me, but I was like, you suck. Like you need to stop. That is unacceptable to not know where your car is. And I'm pretty sure it's 2 blocks away. It was like that kind of morning. And I was obviously super sick. And it was just a horrible, horrible feeling to think that I put anyone in harm's way. And that's just deeply unacceptable. So I stopped drinking and I didn't drink for like 3 years.
Question though, was your car 2 blocks away? Like, how did you find your car?
It was 2 blocks away, but I did like wander around for a bit.
You did?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like some other things happened that night that were not available to me that had to be explained to me by my roommate. Do you know what I mean? So, like,
Yes.
it was not a happy night. So, I wound up saying this like very formal apology to the booze that was all lined up on the fridge. I was like, goodbye, I love you. I have to go. I was like, you and I have to break up, like straight up. So then, there's a phrase that many will be familiar with called self-will run riot, where I was like, and I am not going to drink. And I did not. I just did not for like 3.5, 4 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. So you can see why I thought I had it licked and why I thought I was just fine. And then I met this really handsome guy on a plane and I saw how he drank, which was, I mean, it's barely even like a normie. Like he barely drinks at all. He'll have 1.5 drinks and then he will leave that half drink, which many of us find very confusing.
And annoying.
Completely stupid. Like you just paid $8 for that drink. What are you doing? And also, what are you doing?
I
Right. So,
still do that with my husband to this day. Like if he decides if he's having a drink and he leaves it, or if we're in a restaurant, I'm like, you still have like a quarter of a beer. Like, what do you mean you want to go? Like, what?
that's so
We paid for
confusing.
that. Finish your drink.
Slug it now. Do it. So I saw him drinking normally. And so then my 3.5 to 4 years away from having a drink and having a bunch of consequences, I thought, okay, that's fine. I can just drink like him. And so that story. 5 minutes later, I was in another blackout. And so then I put it down again and I was like,
Like how long later?
it
Like
was
how long
about
did
a
you do
it was
that?
like about a year because again there were like windows of time where I wasn't drinking and so I could talk myself out of thinking there was a problem and so I set it down about a year later and I tried, taking more traditional recovery routes outside of like, at the time, what was I doing? I was like kind of Elizabeth Gilberting it. Like I was like new age woo-wooing it. I was like, I'll just talk to God myself and I do not need I don't need support. I don't need a
Right.
group of people. So then I put together another 3.5, 4 years. Like I did not pick up. And then
And
I
how did
did.
you feel during that time? Because I want to address this because I think a lot of people do it without like 12 step or
Hmm.
without I don't
Hmm.
what else whatever else is out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to say that it's like that didn't work for me because I would have early on some periods, but I was always what they say in 12 step, like the irritable discontent,
Yeah.
irritable,
What's the other one?
you
There's
know.
three. Yeah, that.
Like discontent, like
Hmm.
aggravated and
Yeah, like cranky pants.
restless, irritable, restless,
Restless.
and discontent.
Thank
And
you.
then I find that I need something more structured to help me not feel that way. But I think a lot, but I wonder if since you hadn't even gone that route,
Yeah.
did you feel okay?
Okay-ish, I would say. I did have like a lot of spiritual kind of pursuits and tried meditation. And so I had kind of other, I don't know, pathways to source to help. But I also leaned into sugar or, like I was kind of like, I think you're saying there was definitely like an edge. And a lot of it was because I had so many family members who had wound up going into rooms and did feel like this was the only way, I think there was like a little rebellious kid who was proving that I didn't have to use the recovery path because I was strong enough or whatever. I don't know exactly what my thought theory was, but I didn't want it. And later on, like later when I got sober and I started looking back and I started doing some work, I realized that my dad hated AA or hated recovery. Yeah. And so he it turns out was an alcoholic. Could have really used some help. And he died really young. He died when I was 20, which
And how
incidentally,
old was he?
he was only 46. So
Okay.
he was super young.
Yeah.
And he died of lupus, but he was like a pretty, he was kind of like the drunk that would just pass out and wasn't like a jerk. And so even though he fell asleep at 8 o'clock at night in his chair every night, I didn't understand that he was an alcoholic. It was not on my radar. And my mom went to Al-Anon when I was a kid. So I literally had like, one day at a time, needle pointed on the wall and it is a pillow and take it easy and all and so that was, I think, more of my resistance. I was like, ugh, no thanks. But I think a lot of it was just like really aligning with my dad and was like, my dad was like, no, that's not a good thing. I don't want that. And so I think that was a lot of where I kind of copped that attitude and went around with that. And so it's really kind of painful to look back on that because, like his father before him who died of this disease, and my mom's father who died of this disease, all in their like mid to late 40s, all those guys died.
Wow.
Yeah. And like if they had had support and if they had had, some spiritual sauce to help them through, they might still, some of them would still be walking this earth. So it's super sad actually. And so I feel like third time's a charm because eventually I had to put it down again. And again, with that sort of hesitation, well, I never drank in the morning. I never hid booze. I never kind of portrayed to the world, at least, what I perceived to be an alcoholic. So it was really hard for me to sort of like fully set it down. My husband at the time was even like, "Are you sure? Like, I don't think you are." And I was like, let me remind you of a few events. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, that sucked."
What were they?
Oh, I probably won't get into it because it's pretty gnarly, but it's just he just had a short memory for it. And then when I was like, don't forget about this event and that event. And he was like, "Oh yeah, okay, well, I
Well,
guess I'll be
was
fine."
one of those events the thing that made you go like, I can't drink anymore?
Well, that one of them was just something that I did that was like super shitty to him. That like it was just really bad behavior. And he was like, "Oh yeah, that did suck." But when I decided to stop, it was because I'd had another night where I had been out and I was kind of graying in and out and I was driving. And so I had to like cut it off again. So really, I think that only happened about a handful of times, but that time this is so ridiculous. I actually like saw some cops as I was driving home. So then I took some back streets and I was like Starsky and Hutching it, like just to age myself. I was like running the back streets. I was like, they're never gonna find me. Just drunk, like so ridiculous. And it was just awful. And I woke up at 5 in the morning and I had a little bit of like a white light event where I heard a voice in my head say, and it's pretty funny because, at the time I was pursuing directing and I was making this big directing career. And I heard a voice in my head say, "If you want to be a director, you can't drink." And I was like, "Oh shit," like that to me is like a higher power who knows her, her little self.
Right.
Like, like the higher self was like, "Babe, I have no idea how I'm going to get to you, but let's talk about your career since that's all you care about." So I was like, okay. And then I like saw this really cool visage in the bedroom where I was hung over at 5 a.m. of like, that beautiful thing that happens when you're walking or traveling and like you see the sun through the trees,
Yes.
that like sparkly quality. That's what I saw in my bedroom when I heard that voice. And I was like, okay, I got to try something different. So that's what brought me into recovery and into some community around this problem.
I I feel the exact same, like mine was the same way, just of the hitting that moment where I'd
Mm.
drunk, and that same thought of I have to do something else because I've
Yeah.
tried so many times to just like not drink.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to try something else, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how much needlepoint is involved.
Bring on the needlepoint. I kind of would like those now, actually.
Remember when we were gonna do a line of t-shirts?
Yes. They're so good.
Yeah.
We really
Well,
have to bring
let me
that up.
ask you this. This is kind of a serious question, and I know we'll get into some of this later, but because you have a special gift where
Hmm.
you see and get messages from beyond, I wonder if you ever felt your father and anything surrounding like drinking. Like, did you
Hmm.
ever get any messages? Is that a weird question?
No, it's a great
From
question.
your dad telling you, like warning you?
Yeah, sometimes spirit is still in a little bit of denial. So like I would say that I didn't necessarily get word from him other than like, no, you're fine. You don't need to stop drinking.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thanks a
yeah.
lot, Dad.
Yeah, you're fine. He's a little bit like my husband. He's like, ah, you're fine. But what I have heard a lot, because the thing about being a medium is, in order to keep that craft hot and happening, you have to practice a ton. So you have your clients that come through, but you also like practice with other mediums. And so I get a ton of readings, which is super cool. So he comes through all the time, all the time. And one of the things he will say is he will say he's super proud of me for setting it down. Like, it's pretty gorgeous. Yeah. It's going to have a little cry on your pod. But yeah, yeah. So in retrospect now, and especially because he's been on the other side for 30 some years, he's super proud of me, and that is a big part of it. And I do attribute all of like the cool things, the successes, and this new gift that came online some years ago to my sobriety. Like I'm like the reason I can talk to people on the other side, and the reason I have this open channel is because I'm sober, 100%.
So what happened? Okay, so you decide I'm going to do it differently. And did you
Yeah,
decide right then, like I'm going to do 12 step, I'm going to do
yeah,
whatever it takes kind of
yeah,
thing?
yeah. I
Did you
did.
have a friend who took it? Like, how did that work for you?
Well, I did have a friend who happened to be my neighbor growing up in Texas, who I reached out to because I knew he'd been doing this thing some, and he was in a particular, a more rigid group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he told me about a meeting, or actually, I called the hotline and I heard about a meeting out in, I happened to be like meeting with a lawyer for like this project that I had been on that I needed to get written out of. And I needed an entertainment lawyer, right? So I was out on the West Side and so I was like, oh, I'm right here. I can go to this one. And it happened to be the one that you might even have heard of that's got like 500 people that show up, that they're dressed to the nines because that's the tradition of that particular group. They
Okay.
wear ties and they're in dresses and and there were like, no shit, like 500 people there. And I walked in and I just started bawling. I was just crying my face off. And it was a meeting where there were several different speakers, and one of them, thank God and passed the salt. Like, and this I think is a higher power magic, where it was like he talked about how much he hated recovery. He hated the rooms. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. But then, of course, there's this progression and this beautiful journey where now he loves it. And that's, I think, very much my story, where I was like, last thing on earth, tried for 10 years to not do that. And then ultimately ended up there going, oh my God, this is great. Like, why was I so against this? I would, dad, you know. So yeah, so that's what happened. And it was super cool because I met this woman named Jane, and she happened to have 10 years that night. And she decided that she would be my temporary sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
And she explained to me how I was going to have to drive to the West Side every day to go to a meeting. And I was like, I probably won't do that. And so then it was kind of cool because immediately I kind of took it onto myself. I was like, no, this is how I'm going to do this thing, but I am going to do this thing. So it was a kind of a cool choice. Like she was like trying to take my choice away. And I was like, no, actually, I live in Silver Lake. I'm going to find it over there. I'm sure there's lots of meetings in this town. Like, I don't need to do it your way, Jane, but I like your name. But anyway, so but it was still kind of magical that it was she and I share a birthday.
Oh yeah.
right?
Because that was your first day.
Yeah, day one.
So, okay, so you start getting some recovery and then you get pregnant, right? Like
Yeah,
how many, I mean, I'm guessing like 8 months later?
it was actually 3 months.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because, okay, I remember
Yeah.
doing them, trying to do the math when I was writing the book.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I was joking. I was going to call him Chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, little Chip. And he's a lot of why, he's a lot of why I got sober because I kept trying to get pregnant. And then when I didn't, I would like binge drink and then I would put it down again. And it was pretty terrible actually for a while there. I had some losses and it was like travesty. And then sobriety gave me that little dude. And then get this, his expected delivery day is the same day as my sobriety day.
Wow. But he
Yeah.
had the nerve to not come on that
What
day.
the hell? I'm so glad. I didn't really want to share my birthday with him.
Isn't
Yeah.
it amazing how in sobriety you stop caring as much about your natal birthday and like your
Yeah.
sobriety birthday has so much more meaning?
Yeah. It's like such a good day. It's like
Yeah.
such a special date. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
he
feel
showed
like
up
so
two
amazing. You're
two
like,
days before that. We drove home from
"Oh,
the hospital on my sobriety birthday. Yeah.
oh."
And
Okay, so you're feeling really good. You're pregnant. I am imagining that you are kind of like a serene pregnant woman.
oh yeah, I had the hormones were like on my side during pregnancy. Yeah, I was
Same.
like glowy and happy and like it's all good, even though it's 2008 and nothing was good. You know what I mean?
Hmm,
I was
hmm,
like
hmm.
super happy pregnant lady.
So then you have the baby,
Yep,
and how long did things stay good?
not long. Well, the hormones flipped on me, man. Like they just, and it's so funny. I remember saying to my sponsor early on, I was like, well, maybe I don't even need to go to meetings because like I'm pregnant. I would never drink while I was pregnant, which is actually a true thing for me. And she was like, maybe you should just keep coming. And I remember how sweet my sponsor was. She's like, you should just hang around. And I was like, okay, okay. And then it wound up just being, it saved my bacon because I had really gnarly postpartum depression. And that's when I think you caught wind of me in that room where I was like really not okay. I was not okay.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't have known it though. So were you just kind of sucking it up for a while? Did you have like mom friends? Like what was your situation that early on? I don't remember.
Yeah, I had a few mom friends and a lot of them would look at me and be like, "You have a miracle." And I'd be like, "That's fine, but I'm not okay." But I was also really stubborn hippie where I didn't want to take I didn't want to take antidepressants at the time and I didn't think whatever. So I had to like go to acupuncture every single day and I took homeopathy and I had to just so I kind of like white knuckled my way through that depression just having I was just being really rigid about it and not accepting like what help is really lovely and available. You know what I mean?
It's
So,
amazing how we can be really rigid about certain other things, but then like we'll drink our face off when we're right.
right? I'm like, let me just make sure this is an organic avocado and then I go and like drink a bunch of ridiculous like flammable liquid.
Yeah.
Right, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Is this kale organic? And then like, no, what is this? You can light this on fire when I'm drinking. Yeah.
So what I remember meeting you, I remember you were kind of in the throes of it because for me, I was like, okay, I don't know how to help anybody like with sobriety. I need a lot of help myself. But this I know and I've been through and like you're coming with me.
Oh my God,
I
I
think I
know.
brought you to my house. I was like, you're gonna
Yes.
come over, we're gonna have some tea, and we're gonna talk about it. What I remember too is that you had one of those women, you started crying at this particular meeting and saying you were just having a hard time. And this lady came up to you and was
Oh my
like,
God, that's
honey, this is what I remember the words were. You are missing it. You're missing your baby's childhood. And I was like, no, she's not missing anything. She's right here for every
yeah.
horrible moment of it at the begin. It's hard. You've
Yeah.
forgotten.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I yelled at her, but I was like, I don't think she's missing anything. I think she's right. She's fine. She's very clear.
Oh my God, you swooped in. It was awesome. I remember it really well.
I
It was
was
like,
really mad for you.
yeah, I loved it because I'm a little bit of or a lot of a people pleaser. So I was probably like, "Oh, okay, okay, yeah, I'm a bad person. Thanks for letting me know, you know?" And you were like, "No, thanks. Like, get off of her. That's totally unacceptable. This is a woman who's, in the throes of it. Like, don't speak to her that way." And it was awesome. So
Yeah,
you were
because
like, "You're coming over."
she wasn't really trying to be helpful. She was being she was lecturing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you shouldn't feel like this. And I was like, she can't help it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then, but like, how did you ever take anything for the depression?
I just did that kind of thing. I did the homeopathy. I did like GABA, the little GABA pills, and then I did a ton of acupuncture. And it was too bad it was before community acupuncture was a thing. So it was like super expensive. But I went every day, and and like after about a month or so, it eased off. Yeah, but it was rough, man. It was rough. And we had a really tough birth, he and I. It was like 56 hours of labor, and it was a prodromal labor, which means it's stalled. And I don't know if you remember this, but my midwife kept trying to get me to drink.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I wasn't planning to go to a hospital. Hi, big time hippie, planning to have it in the house in a water. We'd like blown up the water tub, but it wouldn't like hold water. Like it was like, none of it.
No.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. And then, like
Wait, so if you'd done that, where were you going to have the home birth then if you didn't, if the thing was it leaking?
like it just wouldn't like I don't know, it wouldn't blow up or it wouldn't fill up. I was already in like labor and like confused by life. I was walking, I was like walking around the block, throwing up. Like it was just a super unpleasant birthing experience. But the bottom line was I was in under her care for all those months, the whole time going, I'm sober, I don't drink, I don't drink. And she kept saying, you're just too tense, you're too uptight, have a drink. I know your face. I was like, dude, WTF? Like, how are you helping me right now with your turban on your head? Like, no, fancy midwife. Like, I was so mad. And then she said, okay, we're going to go to UCLA because that's a place that has midwives. So we traveled all the way to the west side while I was in labor. And the midwife wound up being not amazing either. So I fired her because she was yelling at me while
Wait, so this one was a midwife though. So you went
yeah.
to another midwife.
Yeah, because there's some complication. I don't know if this is still true 16 years later of like if the midwife can come into the birthing room, but at least there she felt like there are other midwives who can like help you. And she was just a bystander at that point. She was almost like a
Okay.
doula at that point. But she pulled me aside. Well, I mean, she like emptied the room and it spoke to me and she was like, "You're gonna need to play ball because you're like, yeah." And I was like, listen, all y'all got to back up. And like, as I previously said, I'm such a people pleaser. Like, I'm super sweet. I'm usually not that vibe, but man, it was awesome because I was like, you need to back up. You need to back up. Y'all need to get out. Like, I'm birthing this kid the way I'm doing it. And like, STFU. So there you go. That's
So
how it all played out.
you did birth him though in the hospital.
In the hospital, it wound up being Pitocin, but I did deliver him without a C-section, which was, one of my goals. And but it was like hectic. He had to be rushed into the NICU. I know you know about that. So like I lost him for a few days in the NICU. Like it was not an easy project getting him to Earth. And so
Why did he have to be in the NICU?
because there was a little how do you say that word?
Meconium. Yeah.
Meconium in the water. So
Okay.
it was rough. Yeah. Yeah. So I was like a hot mess for a long time. So people would love to tell me how I was missing it. And so you're my little rescue. And
So
how many
yeah.
I was just wondering how long you had at that point, like how early.
So I think I only had a few months because I would turn 16 in May and you had turned like I feel like you had like 16 months.
Yeah, I turned 1 in April. I mean, meaning that year. So I'm 17 now. So we're just like
So we were only like not that far
13 months
apart.
apart. Yeah.
Exactly,
W-
exactly. Yes, like 1 month and like 1 year and 1 month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pretty new
Yeah,
because you only had 16. So yeah, I only had a few months.
right.
I remember that particular meeting where we were, and that was one of my first. So I met my sponsor at a meeting that was the same day as the meeting where we met, but it was just a different place. And she happened to be there that day because she was just taking a break from the meeting where I met you. She was like, I think I'm going to just try something different one day.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was sent to that meeting by somebody that I'd literally met the day before, who was like, you need a plan. I'm sending you to another meeting and it's at this place. And I went to that meeting and I was like, I don't know if I vibe with these people. But I met my sponsor there who started just calling me every day. And she was like, I don't normally go to this meeting, but there's another one on Thursday that's at another place. Go meet me there next Thursday. So I did, and that's the meeting where I started coming to that one, mainly because it was kind of closer to my house.
Yeah.
And I was
And it was
like,
like middle of the day too, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, so see how much magic? Like how cool is that? All of that magic. And the fact that you had so your twins are like what, maybe
they were
6 months
born
older?
November 2007.
Oh, okay. So they are like a year over a year
So
older than my boy. So, but you had that experience, strength, and hope. Like you were a mom who had seen it through a couple of early.
I don't
Uh,
think over a year, right? Because wait, when
well,
was
he's
he?
born in '09.
Oh, 09. Okay. Yeah, you were pregnant in '08. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
They were supposed to be born in January '08.
Right. But
Yeah,
they
they
had
came
it.
early.
They showed up early. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, okay. So now, were you already doing your directing business at that time?
Yeah. I had done some directing. I had done some like corporate and like, marketing kind of videos. And right around then I had shot a spec reel and I was doing commercials. So in 2008, I started to get out there and shoot commercials, which was super fun. And also I had done a web series with a mutual friend of ours, Kim. And so she and we have a fun like origin story with all of the sobriety stuff too. So yeah, so that directing was my jam at the time, and then when all of that market crashed and all that madness happened, a lot of like the jobs that would have come to me kind of got eaten by the bigger fish. So it was a rough year. I went into editorial. So while I was momming, I would edit all night, sleep in the morning. Joe would
Ugh.
take the baby, and then I would be a mom for a while, hire some sitters so I could edit. And I was editing like these behind the scenes videos and stuff like that. That's how we were surviving.
So I want to interject this little part of the story for some of our friends out there who might be listening for this reason. But so at the time that I was fairly newly sober, I'd come out on my blog and said I quit
Mm,
drinking. And
mm.
then I was like off to the races, talking about it a lot on my blog. And my husband said, you're starting to be only known as like this person who just talks about sobriety, a one track mind. So he
Yeah.
said, maybe, and I was very offended. How dare you? That is my identity now. I'm
Right.
sober. I must talk about it, only that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what could I do? And I thought, well, maybe I'll just talk about it once a week. So I came up with this thing and I called it Don't Get Drunk Fridays. And then I asked people that I knew that were sober if they would write their sobriety story on my blog. And you were one of the early people that did it. So your story, so what would happen though is people would go into the comments and they didn't want to say use their names because they wanted to be like, "Oh my God, I totally relate. I feel like I might need to quit drinking," but they would sign up anonymously.
Yeah.
So you and I were like trying to sift through all the comments on your post and answer people. And one of us was like, maybe you were like, we need a place like a Yahoo group.
Right.
And so that people can go on there and have like their name, like be anonymous or have a nickname or whatever and just talk to each other like without fear of it. And I think And then I think you came up with the name.
I did. And do you
Yeah.
remember the origin of why? So like, so obviously I'm a new mom and there was this really great Yahoo group in LA.
Yes.
Yeah, called the Boobie Brigade for all of us new mamas. And so then I was like, wow, what if we called it the Booze Free Brigade? And you were like, I love it. And so that's how it
Yes.
was. Yeah.
So we named it the Booze Free Brigade, and it was a Yahoo group. And I swear to God, it started went crazy. We were
Yeah.
like, "What is happening?" And we were the only people because we were the administrators of it. So
Moderators or
we
whatever.
were the
Yeah.
only people that could like accept people into the group. So then
It's
it
like,
became
ding,
like
ding,
our
ding,
full
ding,
time,
ding.
like all day
Yes.
long. We were getting these, and I was like, can can you like accept a bunch of these people?" And then we were having to go in there and we were like talking to people, and then somehow, well, we started making friends with people
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
it.
Oh, yeah. It
This
became
is
this.
before Facebook. I mean,
Yeah. I
before it was
mean,
on Facebook for a
right.
long
It
time.
it
It was
migrated
just our
over.
group.
Yeah, and I still have a whole bunch of like I would say 20 to 30 friends that I adore that I met in that group. And some of us were on a gratitude list that remains to this day. I mean, like it's a thing. It was very special. It was just like a whole because people would come on and be like, dump, it was sort of like a share, but they could just type it and be like huddled in the house still drinking. And we'd be like, babe, we got you. Don't worry. Come into the light kind of thing. And it was super special. And it was a lot of women and a few men on there, but mostly women, don't you think?
Yes. And then some of the people that lived in LA, we were like, come meet us at a meeting.
Right.
And they did. And then people were meeting each other, like in their cities, and it grew. And then somebody brought it over to Facebook,
Yeah.
and it
I think
still
by
exists
then
to this day. And it's called
it's
the
still
Booze Free Brigade, the BFB.
the BFB. Yeah. Yeah, it's still alive. I was just like I was sharing before we got on the recording. It was like I have so many friends from there. I was just speaking to one yesterday when you texted me. So
It's
it's like,
so funny.
yeah,
A
it's
lot of them don't know that we started it. So every once in a while, I go in there and I'm like, hey guys, like I'm one of the originators of this group. And they're like, oh, what?
who are you?
Yeah.
Hi.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So that happened. And then, so tell me about like what happened with your job and like with your gift.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said earlier, I feel like in a way, the process of letting go of this big crutch that like lets you be like fuzzy and sleepy and numb means that you're going to a lot of, that's a lot of what recovery is about is like getting rid of and moving through all this like painful shit and recalibrating to something higher, right? And I had studied like energy healing prior to getting sober and had some little mini experiences where I saw spirits and stuff and I was like, ugh, no thanks, that's crazy. Like I was like, and
Are
I
you
think
sure you weren't just like really hungry?
yeah, running energy will make you hungry. I mean, it could be. That could all. I
I'm
think
just
maybe
kidding. I'm
it's.
just
I'm
kidding.
really hungry right now. Do you need me to bring any spirits to? So yeah. So it's like I don't know. I mean, I say this a lot in recovery. I just like I attribute all the good things in my life to this path because it just kept opening up, and I think that's because and you're surrounded by people who are pursuing a higher kind of vision of their lives, right? So it's like what's that phrase? It's like pursue something fellows. There's like I can't come up with the quote, but there's like a
I
way,
know that
you
one.
just want to be around people who are in integrity and are just like telling the truth and being and in pursuit of like a life that is of service, basically. So then, I actually had a tragedy in my family about 5 years after I got sober, where my nephew crossed over. He was 14 at the time. And I had this like spontaneous experience at the funeral where I saw him. And it wound up being like really gorgeous because so it was a Catholic mass and I'm not Catholic. I hadn't really been to mass before. So it was like very formal, lots of incense. I thought it was really beautiful. Like it was very theatrical to me. And I was really happy for the huge show. And of course, just devastated for my stepsister. It was just all like, it was just all of that, right? And then I had seen him prior, and I felt like he was out of sorts, like he was unhappy in my vision of him at the wake. And then now I'm in the service, and I see him up top with Jesus. And I like to say it's like almost like there were two guys fishing. Like they're kind of kicking their legs and they're hanging out and they're like, it's like Jesus. And I'm like, well, thank God he's hanging with Jesus. Like he's happy now. He's well. Like that's his man. That's awesome, right? And then right that second, the guy running the service goes, we want to bring up this beautiful piece of artwork that one of the students, his buddies, made, and I'm going to show it to you now. And he unveils a picture of my nephew and Jesus. And I was like, Jesus, 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 Jesus. I was like, what the heck is even happening, right? So it was super beautiful. Later that day, I'm chatting to one of these other students that was like his best friend, apparently, this sweet woman girl. And she tells me that her grandmother had shown up at the service. And I was like, your grandmother. And I knew right away that her grandmother was in spirit. And I was like, oh, it must have been so nice to see her. I was like, we're just having this really trippy conversation. And she goes, yeah, it was so nice. And she said this, she said that. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And I said, did you see Mitchell, my nephew? And she goes, oh, yeah, with Jesus.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's really comforting to me. Because at this point, I think I'm kind of losing it. You know what I mean? So that kind of started it off because I was like, what is even happening? It was like, especially as a filmmaker, I was like, it felt like there was like almost like a special effect, like reality was layering on top of reality. So, and the other really important thing to mention is that my brother is schizophrenic. And so I've always had like a pretty big fear of being crazy, of having any kind of like mental instability. So I really had to push that away because it just represented like going down some rabbit hole or something, right? But again, because I think, of this pursuit of the light, of the pursuit of kind of the higher self and this work that we do in recovery, I was like, I can handle this. Like I have more capacity. Like I could imagine a world where both things were possible, and that maybe really that my schizophrenic brother is also a visionary, and he was immediately put on drugs and the rest, but in other cultures he would have been the shaman. You know what I mean? So there's like this whole like layering of reality that started to happen. So anyway, I just studied it. I like went hard. I bought all the books. I went to the classes. I did all the work. Meanwhile, I started a production company with a business partner. So I was like
Mm-hmm.
working mom, kicking ass over there, but also pursuing. So I used to joke, do you want to talk to spirit babe or business babe? Because I was like bifurcated into these two people.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of the journey of the like teens, like 14 to about 21 or so. I was like, that was my path. I was like medium by weekend. Nobody knew except for I was getting passed around word of mouth to do readings. And then I was like running a business with this really awesome dude who like doesn't believe this for a second. So it was like very like jarring to have both things be my reality.
So what happened?
Well, I wound up inadvertently moving to Hawaii. Like I don't, and again, I always call that a gift of sobriety too. I was like, how did that happen? But it just sort of like through a lot of magic and synchronicity, I wound up moving to Kauai and during the pandemic. And I was only supposed to be there for 6 months. And then I wound up buying a home there and like moving my family there. And I think because I was there and we were fine running the business because we'd figured out during COVID that you really can run a business long distance. But as a director, I would have to fly a lot, of course, and show up on set and run for weeks. I'd be gone. And then I was like, this isn't sustainable. I can't be across an ocean from my child for weeks at a time. And so I asked to be, basically I left the business and he bought me out. And so I wound up deciding to pursue this spiritual life full time and pursue mediumship and mentorship as I call myself a spiritual cheerleader. So I do mentorship for those who are coming online intuitively and mentorship for creatives. And now, and I run a podcast called Medium Curious. So that's what it all landed into was the soup of this spiritual spirit babe one, I guess, is what happened.
That's so cool though. And you love your partner that you do the Medium podcast with.
Oh yeah, yeah, she's a magical creature for sure. Yeah, she's a mom. So it's like part of our whole thing is like we're a couple of normal moms who just happen to speak to dead people. You know what I mean? And she's like this professional musician. She's like an incredible like PTA president. Like she's just like a person with a ton of capacity. And interestingly, we discovered pretty early on when we started recording the podcast that, she had put down alcohol too.
And you
But
didn't know that?
it all started when she started mediuming, the verb to medium, because they weren't compatible. It just didn't, in her mind, she couldn't drink and do this work. So she set it down.
Can you tell us, like, before we start to wrap? I mean, do you have like a story about, I mean, besides your kind of origin story, but is there one that you can tell us that's like where you were like, oh yeah, this is where you were working with somebody and
Oh,
you,
yeah. Yeah, for sure. The one that jumps to mind was when I was still, kind of like living the half life in both places. A dear friend of mine who's a producer in the Bay Area who I had, and I was very careful who I confided this big detail with because some people are really not open to it. I think more and more people are opening up their minds and hearts to this idea that, we absolutely go on the other side and that we can connect with them. And we do, like all of us have the capacity to talk to our ancestors and our loved ones. But she asked me to do a reading for her neighbor who had lost his wife and was just really devastated. And so she like purchased it for him. And he actually met me at like the kind of, there was like a little annex to our office that we had purchased. And so he actually met me at my business. And I was sitting with him and his wife came in and she showed me these really beautiful long dresses that she would wear. And I could tell that he didn't believe me for quite a while because I was hearing what she was saying. I was translating that over and he would kind of nod and go like, "Oh, I don't know." But for some reason, when I was like, "Well, she's showing me these long dresses. Like she really loved these long dresses." And he like lit up because he just was like, he could finally believe it based on that evidence. And he lit up, which lit her up, which made all these other messages and beautiful like reassurances and talking about the garden and how he needed to keep up with the garden and that he needed to go visit with that friend and that he should probably find another wife and like just like really beautiful stuff. And the man who walked in there was a completely different man than the one who walked out. And I was like, oh, that, that is what I should do with my days. I love this business. I love our employees. Like, I love the work, but it felt very much like that is my calling. That is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to help people move on from these terrible, terrible losses. And not that it's one day to the next. Grief is very weird and hard, but if I can be of service to someone in deep grief or to someone who still hasn't resolved something really important from 15 years ago with their loved one on the other side, then that seems like a more mighty cause for a life. And it was scary, right? It was super scary. Like I have never cried so hard as when I left that business. I mean, that wasn't sort of beyond intense, but I have like a really loud and really clear knowing of what's true for me. My higher self is something I feel I have like really quick access to. And sometimes it'll have to yell at me at 4 a.m. Like recently, it was like, you need to stop drinking coffee. And I was like, ugh, whatever, higher self. But I did because like this body can't really handle that much caffeine, whatever. So I feel really happy that, thanks to this like wild ride, 17 and a half years or whatever the math is, I've been given so much access to so much beauty and I just felt oh so grateful.
let me ask you this. Are people from beyond ever assholes?
Yes.
I want to know if people have a complete lobotomy and just become like angelic, or if some people are still like sarcastic
Oh,
and
100%.
bitchy.
Well, it's kind of interesting. And like there was this one medium that I really loved in the Bay Area, and she used to say, just because they're dead doesn't mean they're not dicks, or like that doesn't mean they're awesome, right? And what's true for me is like a lot of times when someone comes in, they have to kind of come in as they were So I get to see their sarcasm and I get to see their jerky things and some of them won't even come clean about it. Like I'll be talking to someone and I'm just like, are you going to apologize for this, that, and the other thing? And they're like, well, I could, but I'm not going to because or whatever. So it's like
So
the
we're
way
still petty
you
after we
can still
die.
be absolutely ridiculous after you die. But there is this thing that some spirits will show me where they're the kind of like their higher self and they're like self little s and self big S, and they can kind of separate it and they can go like, this is how I was, and I wanted to show you that and use that as evidence to make sure that we recognize me. But this is how I see it now. So a lot of times, and then what's really crazy is like relationships can evolve over time. Like a lot of my clients will come back and they'll tell me these crazy stories of this beautiful stuff that came through with someone who they didn't get along with, and now their relationship is evolving. Like my grandmother, my mom's mom, and I found her tough, man, on earth. But my relationship with her is completely evolving now because of what
Wow.
messages I get through other mediums or even her directly to me. But like she's softened. Like she's like, oh, I see. I got it. I see. So it's a mix. Like some of them, do come through and they're just like, I'm like, you sure you want to talk to this one? You know what I mean?
But
But
one more question. Do Okay, is there ever times where you are with a paying client and nothing is coming in? And if so, have you ever felt tempted to be like, they're totally here?
oh no, no, it's too stressful, man. I had this family come to me and and I had a link with their, like, in that case, it was the dad, the husband, and the uncle, whatever. Like, there were a bunch of women in the room. And I was like linked to him, but he wasn't giving me enough good evidence that I was like, ladies, I'm gonna give you your money back and I'm gonna give you another medium because this is not working out. And that happens. Like it totally
Okay.
happens. Yeah. No, I have a 100% money back guarantee. Because I figure if you're going to spend that kind of money on a reading, you should love it. It should feel like the best thing that's happened this week. And it should not be something that's like mediocre. I don't think. That's my
And
policy.
can you do this over Zoom?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Oh,
Okay, so
yeah.
where do people find you?
JaneMorganMedium.com or Medium Curious is our podcast, and it's super fun.
Okay, I'm going to put this all in the description to the episode. So if you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I need to meet her over Zoom," all the info will be there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so amazing. I
Aw, back
adore
to you.
you.
I
And
adore you.
and I'm just telling everybody that I am doing an episode. Hopefully, we're recording tomorrow with you and Kim, who we were talking about like just some of our days of early sobriety.
Yeah. And
She's got a totally different story.
yes.
So you'll be
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Yes, I'll be back briefly. I can't wait. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Yeah.
me, Steph. I'm really happy to be here. I
Of
love
course. I adore you. So you don't live though in Hawaii anymore. You live in Utah
Yeah.
now, and you just
Yeah.
recently relocated.
I'm in Park City now, which is another magical, mystical, stunning place. So I've landed
Okay.
in another good spot. Yeah. I'm
So
totally
good for
happy.
you. And
Thank
just so
you.
everybody knows what your time zone is. And
Yep.
I will see you very soon. I adore you.
I adore you too. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.